Howdy folks, today we're looking at Action Comics #1 from 1938 in DC Comics, in facsimile because clearly I do not own a real copy of Action Comics #1. And here's the queen bee who started it all 87 years ago. Of course, this was not the first comic book, as the format had been popular for a few years by then. Cheap entertainment in an era of mass poverty, all in color for a dime. But crucially, it was the first comic book to hit with original material. The comics before this had been compilations of previously published newspaper strips. Those had been popular enough to boost the burgeoning format, but it wasn't until they started publishing news strips in the pamphlets that the format really took off, with Superman serving as proof of concept for a whole new kind of business model. If you know anything about the origins of Superman, you know it all began as a proposal for a newspaper strip assembled by two kids, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. It's not difficult to see in hindsight why the strip wasn't picked up. Even by the standards of the day, the original Superman strips are primitive and even crude. But there were no standards for the nascent comic book industry, which immediately saw the commercial appeal at the core of the idea. So even if Siegel and Shuster weren't quite ready to rub elbows with Hal Foster or Alex Raymond, Superman was most definitely ready for his spotlight. The success of the character, the success of this one comic book, was sufficient to catalyze the entire industry to follow suit. Not only could the industry succeed with original features, they suddenly had a whole new template to follow. Superpowered heroes who could do things like lift automobiles over their heads, leap 1/8 of a single mile, and who needed fear nothing less than an exploding artillery shell. Sure, lots of details remain to be hammered into place, but the basics are right here from the start. Clark Kent is a reporter for a major metropolitan newspaper and is secretly the crusading Superman. In his earliest moves, we see him fighting not supervillains or alien invaders, but, famously, saving women from domestic battery, overturning wrongful convictions, and taking on dark money lobbyists in the nation's capital. That last one sounds like a joke, but it's important to remember that Superman was explicitly a crusader for progressive social causes. Soon enough, he'd be tamed and housebroken, but the version of the character that first became a flashpoint for world historical success liked nothing more than spanking crooked politicians. The rest of the issue offers an interesting lens on the state of the art circa 1938. If the first Superman strips are primitive affairs, much of the rest of the book looks better while betraying far less imagination. The first Zatara strip by Fred Guardineer makes no effort to disguise the degree to which the strip is a carbon copy of Lee Falk's Mandrake the Magician, even down to a mysterious manservant sidekick, Tong instead of Lothar. Zatara even fights a villain, the Tigress, a woman wearing an orange striped sweater. Future Golden Age All-Stars Sheldon Moldoff and Bernard Baily show up in supporting strips alongside a number of slightly less well-known talents. I like Homer Fleming's endearing Chuck Dawson, and Will Eli's Scoop Scanlon is sharp noirish action in black and white.